In your autumn years, who really wants to head off into the sunset?
Well, the grey pound, it's everywhere, and everywhere we go we meet people of our age, and it's absolutely brilliant.
More expendable income, fewer restrictions on their time, but we ask, is the travel industry ready for older travellers? Also this week, we find out how this woman's paving the way for India's female trekking guides.
And later on the Fast Track Travel Clinic, are frequent flyer points losing their value? And why aren't those in-flight headphones just left in the seat pocket for the next passenger?
Hello and welcome to Fast Track. I'm Fiona Foster. Now, gap years. They're becoming something of a rite of passage for the young, but these days, more and more, it's the over 50s who are investing in a rucksack and heading off to some far-flung adventure somewhere. In some countries, a quarter of them say they're planning a foreign trip of 3 months or longer. And importantly for holiday companies, these grey gappers tend to have more disposable income than your average student, spending around $6,000 a trip. But there's a downside. Rajan Datta has been finding out why they're not always the easiest people to cater for.
Meet the self-styled ladies with attitude. Fearless hikers and mountaineers ranging from their mid-50s to 70 years of age. Women who over the last few years have tackled some of the world's most tricky climbs, all in the name of adventure.
My name's Wendy and I'll be 67 this year.
My name is Julie, I'm 51.
I'm Vicky, I'm 62.
I'm Joan, I'm 69.
My name's Diana, I'm 62.
When I met them last year, they were preparing for yet another trip of a lifetime to Patagonia.
Physically, we sort of have to meet certain challenges when we're on the trek. Some of the treks have been harder than others, but I think we've all met our demons at certain points, haven't we?
Definitely, yes. Julie doesn't like heights.
I don't like heights, so that's why we're going to a mountainous place.
When you reach a certain age, I think you suddenly feel that, you know, you need to cram a few things in.
This is a one-off generation, arguably propping up tourism in many parts of the world. With time and some money to spare, certainly more than their parents and probably more than their children will ever have, they're exploring remote parts of the world with little more than an adventurous spirit.
They may hail from the so-called Garden of England, Kent in the south, but for the past few years, this close group of friends have been exploring pastures new, discovering a world that was largely out of bounds to them in their youth. And this reflects a hugely significant trend for the travel industry. Study after study is revealing how the so-called baby boomer generation in the West, that's those born after the Second World War up to the early 60s, are beginning to dominate the travel market. The latest study from the Association of British Travel Agents reveals that since 1996, the number of aged 45 and over travellers has increased by 50%, compared to 25% for the population as a whole in the UK. Now they're more likely to travel than 25 to 34-year-olds.
A lot of them have got teenage kids and they're seeing their kids doing things like gap years, travelling around the world, backpacking, going to some really fantastic places. And a lot of people aged over 50 didn't necessarily, the gap year thing is a relatively new phenomenon for people before they go to college or university. So I think a lot of people over 50 perhaps missed out on that, and they want to join in the fun and see more of the world themselves.
Today in the UK, the over 50s own 80% of the wealth. This is a generation that have benefited from a huge rise in house prices, perhaps the last for a while, with secure, fixed, so-called final salary pensions, and, due to better health conditions, much more time to enjoy spending their money.
Well, I've got a lump sum from my retirement. I can't think of a better way of spending it. The grey pound, it's everywhere, and everywhere we go we meet people of our age, and it's absolutely brilliant to walk along a remote track and think, oh, there's someone in the distance, and actually it's somebody else our age. It's wonderful.
No hands, Julie.
In fact, older travellers account for over half of all holiday spending. They may not fit the bill for advertisers, but they've got the cash and there's lots of them.
If you look at the US, for example, an American turns 50 every 7 seconds. In the European Union, within just a few years, 65% of the population is going to be aged 50 or over. So it's a really massive increase due to the sort of benefits and healthcare of people living longer lives.
This is a pattern that's being replicated right across many parts of the world, and this group refuses to conform to stereotype.
Oh, a tremendous sense of achievement. Yeah, just makes me feel really good. And I want to see as much of it as I can, while I'm still fit.
We're certainly seeing older travellers going to Thailand, Far East, travelling the world, really seeing things. They tend to go on multi-destination holidays. They're not just doing a sun and sand holiday. They really want to go to places, explore, see the world.
The grey gappers are going for it. This clearly has repercussions for insurance costs, but there are other ways in which it affects the travel industry as a whole. Ever wondered who was spurring the trend amongst airlines to charge extra for every little additional comfort? But before the travel industry gets too excited, a word of warning.
The growth in baby boomers, I think it's more of a Western world phenomenon than it is in the emerging market and the BRICS in particular. In those countries, the wealth tends to be with the emerging middle classes, and travel is very much an aspirational thing for the middle classes. So it tends to be the younger people who are travelling more in those markets rather than the older ones.
New plans are being hatched right now by the baby boomer generation. But the reality is this could be a one-off phenomenon. The unique combination of longer life expectancy and a windfall of greater disposable wealth will almost certainly live and die with these baby boomers. With worldwide recession, unemployment and austerity measures hitting hard, it's unlikely many of today's younger generation will have the same time or cash to splash. Mind you, even the toughest of this baby boomer crew says she'll have to call it a day now.
Well, this is probably my last big trek. I've said that last time, but so I might say it again, but I don't know. As long as I'm fit, who can tell?
But half an hour ago we were talking about what colour t-shirts we're going to have when we go to India, to Kerala, in about 18 months' time. So you'll be there, I know you will.
Rajan data on the problems and benefits of chasing the grey pound or the silver dollar. So what do you think? Are older travellers well served on planes and in hotels, or do things need to change? Do let us know at our usual address, fasttrack@bbc.com. And you can always contact us through our Facebook and Twitter accounts. And that's how many of you got in touch following our recent programmes.
2 weeks ago, we ran a story about claims that security officials at Israel's Ben Gurion airport were asking for access to some travellers' email accounts as condition of entry into the country.
She made me open my Gmail account. She read as many emails as she liked. She wouldn't log out, even though I repeatedly asked her.
As expected, we got robust responses from some of you, albeit with very different points of view. Michael Fine from South Korea wrote,
"Would that all airports take security as seriously. Having a carefully profiled passenger's email read, unpleasant as it is for the traveller in question, is a very small price to pay to prevent potential disasters."
While Andrea from Mexico agreed.
I believe that after the real threats that have been demonstrated constantly to Israel and Israelis, whatever they do in order to protect their safety and security, it's okay. They're not doing anything against anybody. On the contrary, that way they could prevent tragedies from happening. I wouldn't mind at all to collaborate and cooperate with them.
Some of you got in contact to claim you'd also been asked for your account password, like Anne-Marie Robson from England.
This article came as no surprise, and I'm shocked no one has complained about their treatment at Ben Gurion before. I was living in the region while my husband was working in Palestine. We used Ben Gurion regularly. Some of the most stressful, unhappy experiences of my life happened there.
And for David Fuller from Jamaica,
I would deny having one. It's not a birthright, and certainly nobody else's business. What's next? This is absolutely deplorable and outrageous, and I'm sure it serves no positive benefit towards security.
As ever, thanks for all of your emails on that topic, and just a reminder, we did ask the Israeli government for its response, and while it wouldn't comment on individual cases, it said obtrusive airline security was an issue in many parts of the world, and it was working at finding ways of maximising security while minimising inconvenience to passengers.
Thanks again for all your emails. Do keep them coming. We love to read them. They're always fascinating. Time now for a look at what else has been happening in the travel world this week.
Thousands of tourists have had their holidays disrupted after Hurricane Ernesto hit Mexico. Beachfront hotels were evacuated on the Yucatan Peninsula in the south of the country, and people were moved into shelters further along the coast. The area is popular for scuba diving and ecotourism. Staying with the weather, and visitors to South Africa have been treated to a novel sight, not sunshine, but snow. Temperatures dropped below freezing in Johannesburg after flurries blew through the city. Snow last fell there 6 years ago during a freak snowstorm. And there was a bit of a buzz in Pittsburgh, USA recently after a swarm of bees delayed takeoff for one Delta Airlines flight. The New York-bound jet was busy refuelling when around 30,000 honeybees set up home on one of the wings. A beekeeper had to be called in to take them away. The insects are protected and can't be killed.
That's it for now, but we've got lots more to come after the break, so do stay with us. Our regular travel clinic reopens as Simon Calder applies soothing balm to your travel headaches, and Michelle heads for the hills in northern India to find out why it's been an uphill struggle for female trekking guides in that part of the world.
It was very difficult, but now everyone is accepting me as a tour guide. I'm very happy.
Hello and welcome to the Fast Track Travel Clinic with me, Simon Calder. And let's start with one of the many questions we get about frequent flyer programs, and in particular the problems collectors face when trying to trade in their points. Sharon Pearce from Cape Town has many thousands of Voyager miles with South African Airways.
For 4 months I've tried to book a flight to either London or New York City with the miles, without success.
Sharon, I can almost hear the chorus of agreement from the loyal customers of other airlines. Times are tough in the aviation business, and one way to respond is by cutting back capacity and filling more seats on each flight. Good for the planet, but unhelpful for people like you seeking to redeem points for the promised free flights. South African Airways says all awards are subject to capacity control. In other words, on flights where every seat can be sold, SAA, like other carriers, is unlikely to make it easy to travel free. Jennifer Davidson is one of many British expatriates who've chosen to retire somewhere even sunnier than the UK, in her case Thailand. But later this year, Jennifer plans to come home for a short visit.
Would I be liable to pay for medical care if I was taken ill? I'm 77 and unable to find a reliable insurance company to provide travel cover.
Jennifer, a question that crops up more and more as retirees decide to move a long way from home to countries where their pension stretches further. But when you return home, your entitlement to free hospital treatment is based on residence in the UK, not your nationality. If you're a British state pensioner who's lived in the UK for 10 years or more in the past, you will be covered for treatment that arises during your visit, including for pre-existing conditions. But you'll need to bring documents that show payment of your UK state pension. Next, Caroline Alsept from Arizona's capital, Phoenix, plans to travel widely in Europe with her niece and wonders,
should we buy a Eurail pass?
A simple question, Caroline, with a rather more complex answer. It all depends where you want to go and how much freedom you need to change your mind. Rail is the most relaxed and rewarding way to explore most of Europe, with connections from the north of Scotland and Scandinavia to the south of Spain and Italy. The Eurail Global Pass, which is available to people only resident outside Europe, offers unlimited travel in 23 countries. Both of you can travel in first class for 15 days for under €1,000. That's about $1,200. If you're the sort of person who likes to think, forget Vienna, let's go to Venice instead, then it's just what you need. But if you have a clear idea about where you want to go and how long you want to spend in each location, then booking ahead is the best plan. You'll save money and hassle. Many express trains in Europe now demand advance reservations even from passengers travelling on Eurail passes. Finally, Hilton Barreto in Kuwait wonders why, after each flight, cabin crew collect the in-flight headphones.
Can't I just keep them in the seat pockets?
Hilton, this is one question I didn't have to seek any opinions for, because my first job in travel was cleaning out planes at Gatwick Airport here in London. And trust me, you wouldn't want to allow anything that might touch your ears to be in contact with some of the things I found in seat pockets. So the headphones are collected at the end of each flight, sent to a reprocessing point to be cleaned, repaired and have the ear pads replaced. Good thing too. Whatever your travel quandary, email fasttrack@bbc.com. For now, from me, Simon Calder, goodbye and see you next time.
Thank you, Simon. Now, I think it's fairly safe to say that the trekking industry thus far has been dominated by male guides. In some parts of the world, it's very rare to spot a hiking guide from the female of the species. Up until now, the mountainous region of Ladakh in northern India has been one of those places. But now one woman is trying to pave the way for a bit of a turnaround there. So we sent Michelle Yanachan to join her on a walk through a stunning but historically troubled part of the world.
Ladakh, the land of high passes. Some call the region Little Tibet for its strong Buddhist culture. Others say Shangri-La, the place which comes close to heaven.
This for me is the most spectacular part of India that I've visited. The green Indus Valley, dominated by the Karakoram, the Ladakh and the Zanskar mountain ranges.
Well, Ladakh has in the last 20 years has emerged as the main center for adventure tourism in India. It is the #1 right now, and the reason is that the infrastructure here is better than other parts of the Himalaya in India.
The main town of Leh now bustles with tourists, and trekking outfitters line the streets. That's creating new job opportunities for women working in the region too, like Rinchin Dulma, who's one of Ladakh's first female trekking guides. She told me how tough it had been at the start.
It was very difficulty, but slowly it works. I didn't make failure myself. Now everyone is accepting me as a tour guide. I'm very happy.
Rinchin was helping to lead a group of women trekkers up a mountain called Gulap Kangri. Those first couple of days we passed through an arid, rugged terrain, along rocky gorges and over high passes.
Well, this is our second night camping. Tonight we're at Mount Carmo Camp, and tomorrow is the big push for the summit, so we're trying to get a very good night's sleep tonight.
The weather worsened, and the high altitude had its effect too, as we approached 6,000 metres above sea level.
It is very bad. I've never been in this situation before. This time, today especially, it's very bad condition here. But luckily we got up to the summit, which is very good for all the members and for the staff, big achievement.
Kiki soso lagalo, that's what they say in Ladakh when you get to a high pass or the top of a mountain. And I'm at the summit of Gulap Kangri in the Stock Range in northern India. The guides chanted as they hung up Buddhist prayer flags. For Rinchen, it was an emotional moment, her first time to scale such a peak as a trekking guide. She told me she now wanted to qualify as a mountaineering guide.
I suggest for these Ladakis young ladies or everywhere in the world, don't be shy, come up, be like a man, go to the mountain, see the landscape, and touch the sky, and you feel your spirit will be up.
After the climb, the group visited the school they'd been raising money for. This next generation may well have more options, and women like Rinchen should make it easier for others to follow in her footsteps too. Among these untrodden valleys, glaciers, and some of the world's highest unclimbed peaks.
Michelle Yanachan, up a mountain in remote northern India. She gets everywhere, that girl. Well, that's it for this week. Do try and join us again next time for a special programme from Greece. Rajan travels through the country to ask how much impact austerity, debt and civil disorder have had on the country's tourist industry. He meets the young Greeks who are trying to wipe the slate clean. Until then, have a look at our website, bbc.com/fast track. There's something there from virtually all four corners of the planet. So who knows, you might find some inspiration for your next trip. And while you're there, why not click through to bbc.com/travel for even more, or have a route around in our Facebook, Twitter or Pinterest accounts. Until then, wherever you're heading next, have fun and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.